Hi there, welcome to Lilly-Tree. Today we're making these gorgeous wire-wrapped earrings that remind me of fireworks. And if you want to see more techniques and tutorials like this one, hit that subscribe button. Now let's get wire wrapping. To make these, we need some 1mm diameter copper wire, which is 18 gauge, 0.4mm diameter copper wire, which is 26 gauge, some graduated sized beads. I'm using 3 beads for each earring of 3, 4 and 5mm diameter, but you can vary this a bit if you like, and some ear hooks. And the tools we're using are bell making or round nose pliers, flat nose pliers, wire cutters, a hammer and block and a file. We need 3 pieces of the 1mm 18 gauge frame wire for each earring, and this is perfect for using offcuts from other projects. My wires are 7cm, 6cm and 5.5cm long, but this may vary depending on the size of the beads. So we're going to take one of the longest wires, and this will sit closest to the bead. So I want to start bending it in the middle. And you can use your bell making pliers to create this shape, but I think I'll just adjust it with my flat nose pliers. And just shape it so the bead sits nicely inside with a little bit of a gap around it. Don't want those wires to cross, so I'll just straighten them back out a little bit. Then we can take the second wire and bend that so it sits just outside the first wire. Then we'll do the same with the third wire, so that'll sit outside the second wire. We then want to repeat this with the other 3 wires for the other earring. We're now going to shape the ends of the wires a bit. I'm just going to use my small riveting hammer, but you can use whatever hammer you've got. I'm just going to hammer those ends so they splay out a little bit. And I want to do this with all of the ends of all of the wires. We're then just going to file those ends to remove any burrs. And that's our wires shaped and ready for weaving. Now we're going to attach the beads as we weave the design, so we need to keep in mind where we want to weave to before adding that first bead. We're going to start our weaving on that innermost wire, and I have 80cm, which is 30 inches, of the 0.4mm or 26 gauge wire. I want to find the centre of that, and then I'll wrap that around the top of the curve 5 times. I'm then going to position my second frame wire and wrap over both wires twice. And then I'll wrap around just that inner wire 5 times. We can then do the same on the other side. And I'll just check where that bead needs to be threaded in. I think I can do a bit more weaving first. So we can add that final frame wire in. So we'll wrap over both of those existing wires once, then through between them. Then we'll add that third wire in, and we want a small gap at the top for the earring finding to go through. And we're going to wrap over what is now the outside 2 wires twice. Then I'm going to bring that wire up between them again and wrap over the inside 2 wires, just the once. I'll then do the same the other side. And this weave looks different on the front and the reverse, so it's easier if you keep the front facing you. So we'll wrap over the inner 2 wires once, through between them, then over the outer 2 wires twice, through between them, and then over the inner 2 wires just once. This is what I call the leaf weave, because it kind of looks like a leaf. I'm now ready to add that first bead, so I'll thread both of the wires through the bead in opposite directions. I want those wires to sit right next to the bead, so you might just need to adjust them a little bit. So we can then continue with the weave, which is going to be 5 wraps on the inner wire and then that leaf shape that we just made. So we've woven down and added in another of those leaves. But before we get too much further, I want to cross those wires over underneath where the bead is. In the same way as we did when adding the bead, it just doesn't have a bead on it. I want those wires to sit directly under the bead. We can then continue the weave down to where we want to add the next bead. So 5 wraps on the inner wire and then the leaf weave. I think I can just get that leaf in before we add the next bead. Then I'll add it in exactly the same way, crossing the wires over in the middle of the bead. So this project's quite simple, you just need to remember to keep a check on when you want to add the beads and weave down both sides simultaneously. So I'll now just continue the weave. When I get down far enough, cross those wires over. Then continue weaving down both sides. I'll then add my final bead. and continue the weave. Once we've finished those 5 wraps on the inner wire, there isn't enough room now to make the leaf weave, as I want to leave the hammered ends of the wires bare. So instead we'll just wrap twice over the inner 2 wires. And then 5 wraps over just that inside wire. And we can do that up to where we've hammered the end of that middle wire. And then just finish the weaving by coiling on just that inside wire. Down as far as the hammered ends. We'll finish the other side off in the same way. And now we've got the weave on there, we can see the difference between the front and the back. To settle those wires, it might help just to clamp gently with the flat nose pliers. These are probably a little bit thin for this. You could use your normal flat nose pliers or chain nose pliers. Then we can trim the excess of the weaving wire. And just make sure those ends are flush so they won't catch on anything. Make sure you've got a little bit of space on that outside wire at the top. And then we can pull those wire ends just outwards a little bit. And we'll weave the other earring in exactly the same way. Then we just need to add ear hooks. We could patina these, but I think I'm going to leave them as bright copper. So the earrings are finished. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and head over to my website for more hints, tips and projects. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.